had directors be like, moan louder, moan louder. And I'm like, I don't want to moan louder. Like, I'm just moaning how I moan.
I'm wearing that badge of honor very proudly right now.
We just have so much fun, playing together.
So Eric was like, well, you could play the tambourine. And I said, I'm not playing the tambourine.
I love the love. Here for the love.
I need to be outside. That's my office.
And really, your level of professionalism and streamlined is just it's really should be applauded. You've done a great thing. Like, this is really, I looked at some of your previous interviews and really exceptional. I'm happy to be a part of the legacy you're building with Eclectic Arts.
Same.
Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are in the world. I'm Mark Sugiyama from Eclectic Arts, based here in Seattle, Washington. And thank you so much for joining me on this Sunday, the 3rd of April, 2022. And a few quick housekeeping details. I do have other live streams coming up, and one of the guests actually just emailed me about 15 minutes ago. So if you'd like to know more about what I do have coming up once it's actually confirmed, please follow me as Eclectic Arts Media, one word, on Instagram. That's where I post everything first, and then some of that information migrates over to other social media platforms. If this is your first time joining me on my YouTube channel, if you could do me a huge favor and hit the subscribe button and the notification bell to keep up to date on what I have coming up on my YouTube channel. And if you're on the Twitch side of things, if you could follow me over there, greatly appreciate that. That's where I started all this streaming work almost 2 years ago. It was on Twitch, opening for the wonderful band Alice on their virtual tour in 2020, which is crazy to think about. And if you're really enjoying what I do for content and all the different types of guests that I have on, there's a PayPal me link. I always appreciate tips and donations. The link is in every video description I have on my YouTube channel. It's also on the Twitch channel as well. And again, this platform that I use costs me money every month. So every dollar helps keep me going. And I do appreciate the support for those that are tuning in now and also tuning in down the road. Okay, I'm excited about this. I've had quite a few different guests this week, from guests from Japan and guests from Kazakhstan, different fields, different art backgrounds, which is exactly what Eclectic Arts does. But for everybody who knows me, my foundation has always been rock, hard rock, and metal. Will never change. I mean, going to my first concert when I was 9 years old, when I saw Kiss, all the way to everything now. And I love all kinds of different types of music, being a musician. So I'm so excited to be able to talk to this band today to finish up the live streams for this week. So let's get to things. My guest today is a hard rockin' band from Chicago. Their sophomore self-titled album was just released in March by Deco Entertainment. Please welcome to the Eclectic Arts virtual studio, Chains Over RAZORS.
What's going on?
Not much, guys. How you guys doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing really, really good. Happy Sunday to everybody.
You too. You too.
Cool, man. So I love the fact that I got the whole band here. So I've got Mikey, Andy, and Will. So that's going to be awesome to talk about not only the songs and the production, but also perhaps the vocals and instrumentation as well. And so let's kind of jump into things. This album it just came out within a week, I want to say. It's like at the end of March or so. So how has the response been to it so far for you guys?
It's been incredible.
Yeah, lots of good things.
Okay, and maybe we can kind of work our way back. How long? So since we had the pandemic and we're kind of coming out of the pandemic and that kind of thing, was the album being worked on last year, this year, back in 2020? How far back does it go for the whole, beginning of this project for your sophomore album?
I would say it started in the middle of 2019 when we just started writing the songs and began the tracking process. And then as soon as the pandemic hit, that was it. Complete shutdown. We couldn't even get into our studio. It's a commercial property. They were restricting all businesses unless you were essential. So that was a huge challenge, and that knocked us back about 8 months of work. And then finally, when things were being lifted, we had a lot of catching up to do. And so good amount of 2020, we missed out a lot. And then I would say 2021 was when we were back in our groove and finishing half the album.
Okay, wow. So that's
Yeah. It was tough.
It's kind of sounds similar to like when I started doing some of these live streams back in 2020, where there's a lot of bands where like we were ready to go and then everything went out the window. So we had to just put everything on hold and maybe kind of tweak some songs in our home studio kind of situation, because there wasn't anything they could actually do to actually get the final product done, let alone get out on the road, obviously, because everything was freaking shut down. So they couldn't even play a show anywhere. So, and I'm curious though, with the songs that are on the album that you guys are working on from 2019 to now, 12 songs ended up on the album. Was there any leftover? You guys have some things that might come out later, or it's like, no, those are the 12 songs that we worked on?
Those were the 12 that we worked on. I mean, coming into the record, we didn't have songs already written. You might have had riffs or ideas, but we went in with the mentality of writing and recording at the same time to keep that freshness to the music and the excitement of it. It's really easy to beat down a song, rehearsing it a zillion times, and taking the old school approach of keeping that, the record is going, you don't know what you're going to get, and you hope that magic is captured, and that's what we did on this whole album. So that spontaneity and was across the whole album. Brilliant mistakes that happened formed out parts of songs that were like, we got to keep this. This is fantastic. And we just let it ride like that. We didn't have an idea of where we want to go with it. We just let every song take its own shape.
Okay, that sounds cool. So you kind of just really let things be organic and and the direction they kind of go. And I'm just kind of curious, just as a side, Will, are you hearing some like distortion when when Mikey talks?
Yes.
Yeah, so we're hearing some distortion, Mikey. I don't know if there's a mic setting on your end or anything else that you can adjust, or it's like, no, we just we just have what we have.
Am I just that loud? Is that better?
I'm still hearing it, and I'm not sure why that's doing that. That's a weird one. I mean, I can hear what you're saying, but there's some distortion that's coming through sometimes too.
Let me check. Is it still distorted?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I hear Will completely clean. There's no issues with him, but yeah, I'm hearing.
We're trying to source it out here.
Okay, no problem. This is what happens when we're live, people.
Yeah, maybe I need a new phone. How about now?
That sounds better.
That sounds better. Yeah.
Okay.
No, it's back to crap again.
How about now? Better?
Talk again.
Yeah, keep talking.
Yeah, check microphone.
Yeah.
Check microphone.
Yeah, I can hear you better now.
Do you keep messing with it? Because it sounds like you're messing with it.
As we go, let us know if it's too quiet right now.
I'm all right with it.
All the way down, Andy. See what happens.
Yeah, you're real low now.
Not distorted.
Yeah, I don't hear the distortion.
Still?
So I'm saying this distortion's down, but you keep turning it lower. It's harder to hear you.
Oh, okay. Maybe we'll just have to talk softer.
No, I think you just have to talk louder now because you turned it down.
Okay. How about this? Is this good?
I can hear you. It's like Will saying, it's quieter, but then there's some kind of interference kind of coming through too. So I don't know if it's where you're at or you're.
Log out, log back in.
I would try that.
Yeah, let's try that and see what happens, and I'll talk to Will in the meantime.
All right, sounds good.
Okay, cool. So as Mikey was saying, with working on the song, that type of thing, are you responsible for all the lyrics, or does the band write the lyrics, or how does that work being the vocalist?
I am for the vocals. That's all me. At least that's what we did for the recording and the writing process.
Okay, so one of the songs that as I was listening to the entire album, I'm kind of curious about, and so I'm glad that you're here. You can kind of maybe explain, was about "Tear from Your Eye," and so what lyrically is going on in that song?
It was a song that I don't know. The words just kind of hit me. Like the first part of it was actually done a long time ago with just me and an acoustic. It's like on my it's actually on my my YouTube page, and I sent it to them, and they were like, okay, we could make this into a song, and they actually built a song around just that little part that I had. Talking about "Tear from Your Eye," guys.
Cool.
I hear you better now.
Yeah, it seems like I hear you better.
Still distorted?
I don't know. Say a bunch of words.
Tear from your eye rules.
Yeah, sounds okay over here.
Okay.
Okay, cool. All right, so you're saying that you had lyrics and then they wrote a song around it?
Yes. Yeah, I had a little part. It was like a guitar part that went with it, but it was on an acoustic. And then when they heard it, Mikey and Andy they built a song around it. Okay, so when you're writing lyrics and you get inspired, are you like writing stuff down into like a journal somewhere and then you're kind of working on stuff, or what's your process like as the lyricist? Yeah, I'll write down notes, or I'll hear harmonies or something like that in my head, or I'll hear actual just music, like I'll hear guitar work and I'll hear drums. I probably should go to the doctor, but I'm not gonna go. So. Okay, and I'm assuming you're probably like a lot of artists too, that inspiration strikes you at 3 a.m. kind of a thing, and if you got to sit there and write it down, otherwise you'll forget it if you go back to sleep. Absolutely. Yeah, I've got that same syndrome, so I can relate to it. And so speaking of that song, so Mikey and Andy, as Will was saying, that you guys took the lyrics and the kind of that part and started writing a song around it. What's that process like for you guys with the guitars and the drums, kind of coming up with your pieces of the song parts?
The most difficult, Will is a left-handed player, but still plays on a right-handed guitar. So what is comfortable with him reverses all the way around. So trying to translate that melody for a right-handed player on a right-handed guitar is backwards for me. So I have to really sit down and try to break down what he was doing and, get all Lindsey Buckingham about it. And figure how do I play the bass and the melody at the same time, because we are a 3-piece and I'm playing bass and guitar at the same time through my Fractal Active X3. So I have to really sit down with it. It took a while, but once I figured it out, everything started forming itself out. But it was a challenge. Okay, and then Andy, your drum parts for that particular tune?
For that song, it would be to make sure that I wasn't going a little too bombastic with certain parts because of how dynamic he is vocally. There was a couple times where I was just, jamming to it while we're writing and recording it. And I'm like finding myself overtaking his instrumentation or Will's lyrics and his vocals. So I have to lay it back on certain sections just to kind of swing the groove with it. And then when he comes in powerful, to make sure I really accent that so it stands out. Because either that or it just sounds like I was just plowing through the whole song, which then it becomes ear fatiguing. So I had to be very careful with that song to make sure not to overdo it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, you're playing for the song, and that's actually one of the words that I wrote down right next to that song is dynamics, because there's so many dynamics in that tune. And I actually would argue there's a lot of dynamics in all of your tunes. That's one of the things that really drew me to your music, is that it's not one note at all, and that's awesome to hear from, especially from a power trio. Yeah, we really have to preserve the dynamic, and Carmine Appice was executive producer, so he wanted to make sure that not everything was always at 10, and we wanted to make sure of that as well, and really feel out the arrangement, chord changes, key changes, make sure everything felt right. It is really easy to sit on one note, but I think we all have ADD, so
sitting on one note would be boring for ourselves. So, for us, it's like we want to entertain ourselves first, let everything else kind of take its shape from there.
Yeah, no, you definitely need to make sure that's something you're happy with as a band. You don't want to do the whole thing of playing to your audience, and if the audience doesn't like it and you don't like it, then you got nothing.
Yeah, I mean, we always wrote what we felt we were fans of in any genre of music. So, if we were like, yeah, this is gonna rock, man, people are gonna beat the shit out of each other, or maybe cry on a song, fantastic. We felt good about everything we wrote.
Okay, cool. And I want to kind of also pick through another song, The Narc.
Nice.
So, Will, let's go back to you. What's that lyrically about?
That is about a narcissist. We've probably all met one or a couple in our lifetime. So, that's just, pretty much look it up in the dictionary. That's what it is. That's what that's about. It's not fun, but sometimes it's got to be said.
Absolutely. I know I've got a few that came right to mind when you said narcissist.
Right.
And they're no fun. They're in a world of their own.
Yep.
And looking down on everybody else around them. And so musically, guys, what was the music conception for that particular tune?
Another moment that, it's just a mistake or something inspired it to start developing. The challenge is, once again, with like Tear From Your Eye, it's like, okay, how do I play even like in the verses that guitar melody along with the bass? And I have to almost think in reverse of sonically of, okay, what I need to be doing is playing the bass and then figure out a way how to design my guitar to sound like I'm playing the notes at a regular octave of in the verse, and then keep it dynamic with what my brother's doing and what Will's doing, because he's got like a mid-level vocal going for the verses before he really punches it into overdrive. So thinking that through, once again, is always a challenge being three guys, trying to make it sound like there's 4 or 5 guys in a band. So, and it's gonna, and then you're probably gonna hear that on every song you ask. that probably same response, but it's a cool challenge, and it made us step up our game and really develop out what became this COR album.
Okay, and so Mikey and Andy, in your guys' case, being brothers, and I've got an older brother that played drums, and I play guitar, so we would be down in our parents' basement jamming all the time on 80s rock stuff and metal and that kind of thing. Is that kind of what it was like for both of you growing up and coming up, learning your instruments, and just kind of going for it for bands that you were fans of?
Oh, absolutely. It would be every night, every weekend, jamming, playing music, trying to learn something. Can you master that little section? Back when you're young and you're in your school days, everybody would set standards of like, can you play this song, or can you do that technical aspect of it? So that was a constant challenge of always hearing that. At the same time, we always wanted to write our own music. I mean, it's cool to play other music, but at the same time, the fun and thrill of trying to learn how to write a song was even a bigger challenge, because it's easy to go ahead and play it back, somebody else's, but to try to create something of your own, that was probably the biggest challenge.
Okay, and then did you guys ever do like the brother thing where like you wanted to play a certain song and then Mikey, you weren't into that band or something like that, where it's kind of like
I don't know. I guess we always enjoyed the same bands, and so we never really ran into that. But even then, it was just us two trying to make it sound as big as the songs we were trying to learn as kids. And that's something that Carmine picked up when we first started working with him. When he was like, this sounds huge. And I'm like, well, we don't have a bass player. And he was like, that's it. You don't need it. I can tell that over time you've developed this that we never realized until he brought it to our attention, which was the beginning stages where it is today. trying to make it sound like, hey, we're gonna jam, you know, a Testament song or something and make it sound as big as what we're hearing on that CD. But now with two guys when we were younger, so that also I guess naturally developed into this craziness of COR.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. That's an interesting point. That means that you kind of like through compensating that there's two people learning the drums and guitar. So how do we figure out to fill out the rest of it? And then just by doing it, now here you are in a band that we don't need the other people because we've already been doing this for years.
Yeah, and Carmine was just like, I can tell you've been doing this since you first started learning an instrument. And I was like, wow, you picked up on that, and I didn't even pick up on that, and it was pretty cool. And you know, he was like, okay, well, let's transpose this to your instrument. And, you know, I play a 7-string Les Paul that I've custom built in a certain tuning to hit a sonic register that can be conflicting if we even had a bass player. Which, sure, you know, there's a big element to what a bass player can add if you were doing counter rhythms and stuff like that. But the ferocity of what the band's doing and the room to have another instrument would be pretty difficult without trying to clutter sonically the frequencies.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. You basically have to kind of undo what you've been learning all these years to incorporate it. Yeah, it's like, yeah. So if you brought in a fourth player, you know, on bass, and it's like, well, we need to kind of reconfigure how we're doing this because it's gonna sound like mud at some points, and it's not gonna work.
100%. And, you know, a certain riff can sound fantastic in a low register, but if it's too muddy and you try doing it somewhere else, it might not translate as cool or as ferocious. And then you're like, well, what do we do? You know, you can shave off frequencies, but you'll lose the muscle. So you have to really kind of find that balance. And especially when you're tuned as low as we are, you know, you're covering the whole spectrum.
Yeah, and Will, what about your own music background when you're coming up? What got you into music, and then also particularly your vocal style?
Oh wow, vocal styles from all kinds of things. I like all kinds of music. I was brought up, well, let's say the first time I ever started listening to music, it would be like CNC Music Factory and Milli Vanilli, and I mean, I was good. It was really good. And my dad's like, yeah, let's not do that. Here's some Pink Floyd, some Hendrix. You know, let's open your mind a little bit. And you know, went from there. I ended up finding my way into metal after that. You know, it's like System of a Down and Snot. You know, they're the ones that kind of pulled me in. You know, the new metal kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
The grunge. I was into the grunge too, so like you could kind of hear all of that in what I do. I at least, especially the grunge. I feel like there's some grunge aspects that are really point out in the harmonies, maybe like Alice in Chains or something.
Yeah, that definitely does stand out. And I'm curious too. You mentioned when you were talking about lyric writing that sometimes you be using acoustic, and Mikey talked about the same thing, that you're a lefty playing it on a right. So do you sit there and like strum a few chords then as you're coming up with your lyrics to kind of get a rough idea of songs, or is it like, no, I just do that for fun and I'm not a guitar player?
I can use it. Yeah, I've played for. I just never got lessons, and I can play on a lefty, and I can also play on a right-handed, just flipped over. Yeah, it can come in handy when I'm trying to figure out the right note. But besides that, I don't go outside and play with it. You know, that sounded weird. I don't go to I don't play at like a little cafe bars or something like that.
Only in summer when it's warmer, he does.
Yeah, I'll sit outside and just make a fool of myself in my little cubicle that we have in our townhome.
Okay, so it's basically a tool. It's a tool that you can use when you need it, but you're not like trying to go play.
Yeah, and Adam Sandler songs just randomly.
Yeah, book some wedding gigs and things like that.
Exactly.
Okay, well, and I showed a little bit of your lyric video in the video intro. So can you tell me, did you guys decide that was a song that you wanted to have turned into a video, or did the record label have some input, or how did you decide on that particular tune?
Who wants to take it?
I think the record label decided to go with that song specifically right out of the gates, and they decided to do the lyric video. We're like, okay, cool. That was actually the first song we wrote and record for the record, so that was pretty interesting as well too.
It was random that they picked that one.
Right. So it wasn't set in stone where we're gonna go with this song. They pretty much said this is the song they want to start with. So like, okay, cool, go for it, run with it, have fun, and it ended up turning out the way it did.
Okay, cool. And so that kind of begs the question, what is coming up for the band? So is there another music video? Is there some tour plans, show plans? What's coming up here?
I hope so.
You want to take it, Will? Take it.
No, you go ahead. I don't know what's going on.
Right now, I mean, I'm sure there's gonna be more videos coming. And if we'll be doing a music video for the song or maybe a song, I think we're trying to really work out and plan for doing shows. We've done a few shows. Obviously, COVID is still a situation that has to be worked out. We are trying to work out planning touring for coming in summer. So right now, there's a lot of talking going on and trying to figure out what would be the right thing for us to do to start this, to keep that train rolling, as Aerosmith would say.
Okay, yeah, no, and I think every band's kind of looking at the same type of thing about like, okay, we got our new album out, so what's next? And without like overextending things, because you might have to pull back from it, and it costs money and all the other factors that come into it, and time and whatever else is going on, and everyone's going to put their 2 cents in, from the record label to management, agents, all that kind of thing. So it's like, well, what seems to make the most sense to move forward, and then we'll kind of grow from there, and hopefully we keep growing in the right direction, that everything comes back the way it is, full force. Maybe even by the summer, even by the fall. Speaking of that, how are things over there in that area? So our shows are happening, and the clubs are open, and everything else is kind of going the way it's supposed to be going.
It seems that way. Finally, it seems like everything is starting to return to a normal, but we have all seen that moment where, a huge spike in COVID happens, and then we're back to restrictions, and that gets frustrating. But I think the world in general, with whether you're vaccinated or not, your choice, is ready to return and handle it however they have to handle it. And it's time to move forward. I don't think anybody in any profession could be continuing to deal with not being able to work. And all of us have experienced that. What are we gonna do? Income isn't there anymore. We got shut down. So seeing shows starting to pack house is a good positive sign that, okay, I think it's time. And right now, 2022, it just looks right. I think everything's being handled correctly, and everyone, in a lot of clubs now know how to handle, with all the protocols to keep this, moving forward. It's the bummer is watching clubs that got closed down because they couldn't, keep the place open, and that was disheartening. Especially a lot of clubs that we love to play, and it was like, what? Like, no. So hopefully maybe they'll do a return, and maybe a new facility they can, turn into a club again. But we saw a lot of that happening, and that makes it difficult for any artist. How do we hit this market when these places aren't here anymore?
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you're saying, because that was a concern for me. There's only certain metal clubs out here in Seattle, and it's like, this is going on for a long time. So what are those guys going to do? And one of them was kind of precarious before the pandemic hit. So it's like, are they going to be able to, get their finances together to open? Thankfully, they have, and they've been doing shows, 5 nights a week at least. But we can't count on that.
I feel bad for any of the bands that had everything pretty much, production teams paid on out, get, crews paid on out, and next thing you know, everything canceled, and it's like they're not seeing that money come back.
That money's not being returned.
It's
Sure,
gone.
it's a loss.
And it's like, oh man, I felt bad when I started hearing that story of any artist, had those checks on out, ready to give everyone a hell of an experience, and then have that rug pull on them. I'm like, oh my God, brutal.
Yes, and that's a piece that maybe some fans aren't thinking about is that the upfront money that was put out, and then when everything shut down, it's like, well, you just lost all that money. Let alone the fact that you can't even go on tour to try to make some of it back. It's just gone.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about the guys in the Doyle band. They're literally on the road to start their first tour date when the manager called and said, "Head back to Jersey. It's all done." They're like, "You mean the show's done?" It's like, "No, the whole tour is done." It's like, crap. So now what do we do?
Hundreds of thousands of dollars gone, and that pretty much provides for everybody in their crew and production. I know sometimes people think like, oh, they're making millions and they're well off. It's like, but they're also spending millions to keep the monster going. So it's it was rough to hear some of these stories
The other thing
all over social media about it.
The other thing you have to keep in mind too, if everybody's always wondering, is that the band is always the last to be paid. So everybody else got paid first. So even if that money went out and it all got canceled, that covered the cost of everything. But the band's not seeing that in return. That's just automatically a loss. It's a negative. And now they're basically swinging back out of the box going, all right, we got to take into account that money's gone. Now you're adding this on top of it, and you're starting out new now in 2022 to go out forward. A lot of people are not thinking about that, so it's not an easy thing for anybody in any group to sit there and go, okay, well, it's not like it didn't happen. No, it happened, and you're carrying that weight.
It's a really, really good point, Andy, because you're in a deeper hole basically to get back out on the road in 2022 as a band. It's not like, well, yeah, we're sitting on hundreds of thousands of dollars, so we just ate that cost and no problem. We just go right back out. It's like, no, it's equivalent to living paycheck to paycheck for the average person like myself. It's like, if you lost all that money, you don't have more of it. You have to replace that and then try to make more on top of it. And I'm not going to get into all the stuff like with Live Nation and all that kind of crap that they're trying to pull, but
we heard all about that. It was like good timing, huh?
Yeah, way to be there for the fans and the bands and everybody else.
Yeah.
Good grief. But I hope things that they keep going the way they are for you guys in Chicago and everyone else in the world, so that we can get back to not having to think about what if, more of like just moving forward and doing what you want to do and to building upon that, especially for bands that need to, metal bands have to get out there and tour. They have to play, otherwise they fall behind. And so, some genres of music, you can, like pop music, you can kind of get away from maybe not doing too many shows, but not metal bands. They got to get out there. So hopefully it keeps going, the way it's supposed to.
Yeah. I mean, that's really the only survival money is being out on the road and doing shows. Like you said, pop music, they don't have to do as much, but rock and metal, you're really dogging it every single day to give everyone an experience for a night, and it's a lot of hard work.
Yeah, I've had the pleasure of talking to so many bands in person and also virtually about they're in the 15-passenger van, they're in the Sprinter, they're driving hundreds of miles between gigs, and no, they don't have a driver, they're taking turns driving, and they got whether they took from the last venue, they got a case of water and some old pizza left or whatever it is, and they haven't had a shower yet because they can't find a truck stop to take a shower in, and it's just like, damn, you really have to want it.
Yeah,
and Gold Bond, you need Gold Bond.
Where it was,
I think every night was a 13-hour drive overnight, and by the time you arrived the next day, you're literally rolling up at the time that you had to be at the venue. So we would leave, maybe done packing the night before at 2 a.m., and we had to be at the next gig, by 11 a.m. for setup, and you're literally rolling up at 11 a.m. right on the dot. You're not sleeping, and you're tired as hell, and then the adrenaline rush kicks in, you're playing the show, repeat the next night, and now you're driving from, let's say, Rhode Island to Michigan, that you're trucking it, 18 hours straight at that point.
And your
no
meal,
sleep.
and your meal is a glass of orange juice.
That's it. and it's brutal because it's scary at the same time. It's times like that where you can get hurt. You know, mistakes can happen, accidents can happen, and it's a real risk.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a really, really good point. I'm thinking for some of the other bands too, when they talk about not even just the travel aspect, but if you're to a point where you're traveling, like say overseas, and you got to get on a plane, and maybe your flight gets delayed, and then you got to play this festival. And I know Paul from Cannibal Corpse was telling this story about how I think they missed 2 flights for some festival they had to do, and they literally, when they got there from the airport, there's like a 50-minute drive in the van. So then the van got them to the gig. They had to get on the stage and just play. And he said, I can tell that we were rushed because I still had my watch on. He said, I never have my watch on when I play drums. But so that's why we literally had to get off the van, go up the steps, get on the stage and play. We had no time to breathe and do anything. And he's like, that was fucked up.
That's rough.
I bet.
But it's
imagine the anxiety you're going through, knowing that please no traffic, get there in time, can't miss the gig, and you're literally running to get on stage to play. Everybody thinks you've been there for hours, and you're literally just getting out of that van off the airport.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, for sure. And I think, you know, every band I'm sure has got tour stories and things that have happened that have been really awesome and things that maybe weren't so awesome. And I'm thinking also with those guys too, that there is they talked about, and it's probably happened to you guys as well, you get sleep wherever you can. And that could be under a table. That could be like, there's one thing of Alex Webster, like literally like slumped over like luggage, and he looked like he's dead, but he's sleeping like that backstage because they hadn't slept in like 2 days. That's like, you get it wherever you can. If it's an hour here, great. 45 minutes there, and then you just kind of do it. So good grief.
Yeah, I remember on one of our previous tours, we literally got a hotel just to sleep for an hour and a half, to then check out and then hit back the road. And that was the only time we had. Literally paid to get a hotel for an hour and a half for us to use what we need to use just to sleep for that little time and go. It wasn't an 8-hour, 9-hour sleep, but that's an hour and a half. And it was nothing was worse than hearing that alarm. I think I threw my phone across the room. I didn't want to hear that alarm go. I was like, hell no. Shit ain't going off. I threw my phone. I didn't care. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, well, there's a perfect example. An hour and a half of sleep in a hotel.
Yeah. Right. And getting charged full price for the day. Sometimes a day and a half, because the time you actually, pulled up. Just for a couple hours, just because it's like you need to lay down, slumped up against the side window of a van, drooling on the window. It's like, you just feel like I need a pillow just for an hour.
Yeah, and not to spend too much time with tour stories, but I remember there's another band I was talking about that they always had their backpack with them. Every gig they went to, they have a backpack of their personal belongings, and that when he was laying down on the bed, he's like, I can feel the backpack on my shoulder, even though it's not there, because it's just like, digging into my neck all the time. And I'm trying to lay here and thinking, oh yeah, I got this backpack on me. It's like, no, I don't. There's not a fucking thing there. It's just
phantom backpack.
Yeah, like muscle memory in a bad way.
Right.
Oh man. And I'm curious, since I'm out here in Seattle, have you guys ever made your way to the West, even not to Seattle, to LA, Oregon, anywhere over here on the West Coast?
I mean, probably in past projects before COR was formed, we, have done Sunset Strip before out in Cali. I have not been to Seattle. We would love to be out there. That would be fantastic. We have a couple of friends who live out there, so it'd be great to see them. We haven't seen them in a while. But COR, this lineup and the new album, no. I mean, with everything that has happened, we hope to make our way there for sure.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I hope you guys get a chance to, as we were talking earlier, get a chance to come out here, and maybe that would be maybe fall at the earliest, or or winter of next year, or whatever, depending if things keep going the way they're going. A lot of bands were doing this during the pandemic, and I don't know if that's something you guys are even considering. Have you considered doing any kind of live stream concert, or even like a live stream song or something to put out there?
We've talked about it, and I know a lot of bands have done it, but I feel that now that things are open, I mean, really where we belong is on the stage, and that experience is what's really going to deliver what COR is capable of doing. And live stream, sure, you can get it to sound good, but you got to feel what we're bringing to the venue, or as I say, bring to the table for you to really get the experience that we all know is what is going to make you end up leaving going, holy shit, what did I just see? So we really want to take advantage of that aspect, and we're just itching to slay.
Plus, it's cool to hear 10,000 watts destroy your ears.
Yeah, I want to feel that system. I mean, we have in-ear monitors and whatnot, and to hear what we're singing and doing, and I feel like as powerful as that sounds, it's still translating, sounds fantastic. But it's like, I'd rather just have you listen to the album, come see us live, and give that punch, the 1-2 punch to the jib.
That makes perfect sense. The first concert that I came back to in person, that was a metal thing. I was so missing that punch to the gut, and feeling that bass in your chest, and just people going nuts and sweat pouring off the walls, and all that. It smells like beer and all that kind of thing. Yeah. And it's like, God, I can't. It was such a weird feeling, but it's such an amazing feeling to be back in that kind of environment, and seeing people I haven't seen in 2 years, and all that kind of stuff. And you're right that some bands definitely were doing the the live stream route because that's just kind of like the only thing they could do. But there's other ones distinctly said we're not going to do that because we're going to wait until we can be back live, because that's where we come across best, where you can actually feel us and the energy's there. And we want to punch you in the face basically with our music.
Yeah, and I mean, we want to feel the stage shake. And there's something about that just for us is such a cool feeling. And feeling that translation of what we're doing, and doing a live thing, it's almost just like being in a room rehearsing. To us, that's just sonically what it feels like. And it's just like, man, but I want to feel the subs. I want to feel the subwoofers. I want to hear Will's vocals bouncing off every wall and ceiling, soaring over everybody, and just have every, whether you're moshing or you're going to sing back the lyrics, such a great feeling, and the drums, of course. I mean, the coolest damn instrument live, they're like cannons.
Nothing's cooler than that kick drum kicking you in that chest and that snare drum cracking your eardrums.
Yeah.
And those toms shaking, you can feel it shaking your clothes. You'll see your clothes move live. If in the audience, you'll see the air ripple if it's loud enough, that's the coolest part.
I totally understand what you're saying, and I totally get that kind of thing. And even if you're out there, if you're in front of the house and as a fan, and I'm flashback. I'm an old fart, so I'm flashback into when the Cult were opening for Metallica in '89, and Matt Sorum was on the drums. And when they were doing Love Removal Machine, he threw in this part where he was doing some double bass, which is not in the recorded version, and you could just feel it. And man, people just went fucking nuts. It's like, whoa, where'd that come from? And it's like, that's the kind of thing that you only get live when you're actually there in the venue, in the club, and just feeling those frequencies, and everyone's feeling it together, the band on the stage and the fans out in the audience.
I mean, I experienced that with Aerosmith when they kicked in with 9 Lives. And you just felt the feedback from Joe Perry's guitar just hitting you in the chest, and then Tyler just like screeching over the top, and then Hamilton's drums or the guitar, and Kramer's drums just ba-da-da, ba-da-da-da. And I was like, fuck, you're moving the air, man.
Yeah, that's that aspect that we definitely all missed, and it's great that we're finally getting back to it and continue getting back to it. So guys, it's been amazing talking with you about your music and the new album. And for fans out there, you can buy the CDs. Metal fans love physical things. I know I do. And you can buy the T-shirt and you can buy the bundle. I saw all that stuff. It's all available right now. And for those that download and stream and all that kind of stuff, that's available for you too. And I just wish you guys every success with the band and everything that you have coming up with it. And I love keeping in contact with the guests that I talk to. So if there's a time and chance to like promote something else, or if you're like, hey, Mark, we're getting ready to come out to the West Coast, let's jump on a live stream so we can talk about the dates we have coming. I'd love to do it.
We are going to knock on your door with a bottle and say, let's go.
Sounds good, man. My door's right over there. All right, gentlemen, take care over there, and I hope to see you guys soon on the road and kicking some ass.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, you too.
All right.
Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you, guys.